Ladies and gentlemen, in today's video, I am going to be grading every NFL team's offseason so far. Before we start, I just gotta ask, is anybody else getting pelted with snow right now? Like, we've gotten snow for the last 24 hours. It's ridiculous. It's March. It was 60 degrees a week ago. Why? Anyway, couple of plugs as always. Don't forget to use code WyattzWorld on G Fuel or Prize Picks, where you can save yourself a discount on any G Fuel products or match up to $100 of your first deposit. But that's all I got for plugs. Let's get into rating every team's offseason. All right, so today's first team is going to be the Arizona Cardinals, and I give their offseason a C+. They lost basically all of their receivers. However, they did address the major problem that was their defensive run game last year. It was like the worst in the league. So they grabbed Justin Jones, they grabbed Bilal Nichols, they got a cornerback, they got a linebacker, but it's not like my head spun with any of these moves. Now we got the Atlanta Falcons, and I actually give them an A because they handled business. They did what they needed to do. They got rid of Arthur Smith. They got someone who can throw the football. When it comes to making that team better, those are the top two things every single person would have said about that team up until this offseason. They fixed it, and that alone gets an A from me. Moving on, we got Baltimore. I give them a B+. Derrick Henry is big. The Beaks extension was big, but I will not lie. I feel like they did lose a few important people, and they didn't replenish every gap. And I know this draft is still coming, but I'm just saying. Patrick Queen, gone. Tyler Huntley, gone. If Lamar is out, like, you guys know you're gonna miss him. Gus the Bus, gone. He was a lot of your points. Geno Stone, who honestly, he might be ass. I don't know if that was a insanity run or not. No offense. And if he does continue to be elite, it's just gonna hurt you guys even more. Literally, because he's on the Bengals. So like I said, as much as I like your offseason, just slight concerns. Moving on to the next team, we got the Bills, and I actually just give them a C. I don't think we have done anything to really boost our chances of winning a championship, but at the same time, I don't think we've really done anything that's gonna ultimately hurt us. Curtis Samuel's cool. Losing Jordan Poyer, that's tough. Losing Trey is tough, but he might come back, I guess. Losing our center is tough, but keeping Taron Johnson, keeping Deion Dawkins, grabbing Taylor Rapp, grabbing Will Clapp, we're gonna be okay. Like I said, we're just not probably gonna be any better. All right, moving on to the next team, we got the Panthers. I give them a B. I think Deontay Johnson has a chance to be really big for Bryce Young. They picked up 2 guards and also signed a handful of defensive players. Now, I know they did lose Brian Burns, but it's not like their defensive line is going to be bare. And also, please do not sleep on Dane Jackson. He's the cornerback you guys just picked up. He's coming from Buffalo. That guy plays every single play as if the game is on the line. Be good to him. After Carolina, we got the Bears, and they get an A-. They made every attempt to get better that they could have made. Every single attempt. They got Keenan, they got Swift, they got tight end depth now with Gerald Everett, signed Kevin Byard, extended Jalen Johnson. I love it. It's just, will it work? After the Bears, we got the Bengals. They get a C+ from me. I like the additions of Zach Moss and Mike Gesicki. I think Mike Gesicki has a chance to be a very underrated signing. Also, Von Bell coming back is cool. It's just, I don't know what's going on with T. I know they franchise tagged him, but he is not happy there. Right now, I should say. And the whole Geno Stone thing, again, I just don't know if he's actually elite or not. They did a good job, though. Now moving on, we got Cleveland. They get a C from me. Look, Jordan Hicks is a dog, and I like the pickup of Jameis Winston too, especially if Deshaun still stinks. But Jerry Jeudy, he is a huge question mark. The contract they gave him, I think, was flat out stupid. And they picked up the legend himself, Devin Bush. Just not the greatest moves. However, I should acknowledge that they extended Zadarius Smith as well, though, which I think was actually decent considering he was decent last year. Just nothing super game-changing. Now we've got Dallas. They get an F. I think they're the only F I'm handing out because they just haven't done anything to get better. They re-signed 4 players and got 47-year-old Eric Kendricks. Like, the team has not gotten better. Like, that's the point of the offseason, to improve. What are you doing? And now moving on, we got the Broncos, and they get a D from me. And the reason they're not getting an F is because they're doing an obvious rebuild. Dallas isn't. Dallas is like legitimately thinking they're gonna win it all with the same team that they didn't just win it all with. Denver, they are starting over. They got rid of Justin Simmons, they got rid of Russell Wilson, they got rid of Jerry Jeudy, and they're doing their absolute best to get started on a already financially screwed future. So that I will respect them for. It's just they haven't had a good offseason either. As a matter of fact, they've gotten a lot worse. Now moving on, we got the Detroit Lions. First and foremost, not sure what's going on with Cam Sutton. I know he's gone. I hope he's well, but I haven't read into it. As far as their offseason grade goes, I will give it a B. They addressed their secondary, getting Carlton Davis and grabbing Amik Robertson. They re-signed Glasnow. They got DJ Reader. Like, as a team, I definitely think they did get better, but I will still say I'm concerned with their secondary. Even though they did address it, it's still not perfect. After the Lions, we got the Packers. They get a B+. I really like the Xavier McKinney move. That secondary is going to be mean. And let me give my honest thoughts on Josh Jacobs. I'll admit, I've been making it sound a lot worse than it actually is. I think they're going to miss Aaron Jones at times because I think he does offer some things that Jacobs doesn't possess. But especially in the long run of things, Jacobs is not a dumb move because they are going to have, at bare minimum, a solid running back for the next 4 years. Aaron Jones, man, he's like 29. So realistically, I do think the Packers did improve quite a bit, even if I do think they'll regret at times getting rid of Aaron Jones. Next up, we got the Houston Texans. They get an A. They went in. Danielle Hunter is going to be huge for that defense. Again, even though I don't adore Joe Mixon, they have a solid running back, someone much better than Dameon Pierce. I like the addition of Azeez Al-Shahir, and if you guys want me to read a Harry Potter book of the 80 other signings, I guess I can do that, but the Texans literally looked at every possible aspect of the team that needed fixing and tried to address every single possible piece. Whether it works or not, they tried. After the Texans, we got the Colts, and they get a C from me. They did what they needed to do. They spent majority of their money keeping their band together. You know, Zaire Franklin, Michael Pittman, Kenny Moore, there's a couple other people. And then they added Joe Flacco. And if you're wondering why they got a C and Dallas got an F when they essentially did the same thing, well, for one, the Colts, we have no idea how they're actually going to perform with Anthony Richardson. And for two, they had no choice but to spend this money if they wanted to keep that band together, and they have faith in that team. Just a little boring. Now we got the Jags. I give them a B. I think they had an underrated free agency. They kept Josh Allen. They got Mac Jones as a backup. They got Mitch Morse. They got Darnell Savage, Gabe Davis, Eric Armstead. Like, they made moves. I just think they really do need to consider drafting, you know, a number one, trading up for a number one, or trading for a number one receiver in general. That's the only aspect of that team I have really big doubts about right now, and that's the receiving core. After the Jags, we got the Chiefs. They get a B. They kept Chris Jones. They kept Drew Tranquill. They got Hollywood. They got rid of MVS, which might be the best thing they've done all year. But then they also added Irv Smith, who is literally dirt, and then they traded L'Jarius Sneed away for a couple of Mike and Ikes. I get it. He's going to get paid a boat, but like, that was gross. Now we got the Vegas Raiders. They get a C. Love the addition of Christian Wilkins. I think Gardner Minshew can be really good there as well. But as far as I'm concerned, like, that's essentially the splash that they made this offseason. Like, that was it. Team is still bland. Team is still on pace for maybe 8 wins. After the Raiders, we got the Chargers. They get a C. Look, they got rid of a lot of clutter, which they did need to do, but they also did very little to replenish those who were important, also known as the receivers, the weapons. As of this moment, Justin Herbert is going to be throwing the ball to people who have the skill level of me. They're going to have one hell of a draft. After the Chargers, we got the Rams. I give them a B. Kept their O-line together as much as they could. They got a physical corner in Carmen Curl. Also brought back Darius Williams, who was there for their Super Bowl, but it is gonna hurt that they do not have Aaron Donald. And it's gonna be up to that DC to do his absolute best to develop someone to try and take his place. Now we got the Miami Dolphins. They get an A. They actually did really well this offseason, considering they lost Hunt, they lost Howard, they lost Wilkins. They picked up Jordan Poyer. They picked up Shaq Barrett, Kendall Fuller, Jordan Brooks. I think they got Saron Neal from Buffalo. Also, Jonnu Smith, I think, has potential to be extremely deadly in that offense because he's quick as hell. Like, for a team that I was hoping would look a lot more crippled after the offseason, they are coming out smelling like a rose, if you're asking me. After the Dolphins, we got the Vikings, and they also get an A. Kwesi has actually cooked. Okay, he avoided paying Kirk Cousins $180 million. Maybe that's not the worst thing, all right? He's traded up for another first-round pick. He has signed Aaron Jones. He has signed Jonathan Grenard. He has signed Blake Cashman. Signed Andrew Van Ginkel. Signed Sam Darnold, which I don't love, but he's obviously a bridge. They went out and got Trent Sherfield. I think Shaq Griffin now. Obviously, the smaller guys aren't going to be the biggest impact, but Kwesi has gotten us depth, and he has gotten us a defense again. Now we've got the New England Patriots. I give them a C+. They didn't do anything bad. Re-signed a bunch of people. Got a functional quarterback in Jacoby Brissett. And I think they're doing their absolute best to just prepare for the draft and prepare for this brand new chapter in Patriots history. All right, now moving on, we got the Saints. They get a D. They didn't do shit. Tyrann Mathieu for dirt cheap. Release Michael Thomas. Release Marcus May. Sign Nathan Peterman. Sign Willie Gay. Unless I'm missing something, like I'm just not motivated at all. And now we move on to the Giants. They get an A-. I like Devin Singletary. I like Brian Burns. That was a good move on their part, I believe. I like them getting Drew Lock. I like the John Runyon pickup. They got Jalen Mills. They got 2 tight ends and a couple of more players. Like, yeah, okay. They lost Saquon. They lost McKinney. They're obviously going to have to patch those holes eventually, but they did their jobs in replenishing those gaps and adding more to the team. Now we got the Jets. They also get an A-. They got as good of a backup as they could with Tyrod Taylor. Also grabbed Javon Kinlaw, John Simpson, and obviously Morgan Moses and Tyron Smith. Like, I think they did a tremendous job. And Mike Williams. How can we forget that? Moving on to Philly, they also get an A. Sadly, but they do. They lost Kelsey, they lost Byard, Swift, a few others, but they got Saquon, they got CJ back, kept Landon Dickerson, got Bryce Huff, and if Kenny Pickett can somehow turn into something, they can turn that into a trade and get much more with it, or trade Jalen away, whatever. Won't happen for many, many years. I'm just saying in the long haul, like the Eagles, they did good. After Philly, we got the Steelers, and they get an A+. To me, they probably had the best offseason. They got rid of so much clutter, so much shit they didn't need. They got 2 functional quarterbacks, which one of them might turn into your franchise quarterback. You got Patrick Queen, you got Dante Jackson. All they got to do is draft a good wide receiver to go along with Pickens, and that team could be elite. After the Steelers, we got the 49ers. They get a C. Boring. They re-signed and released a lot of their roster, picked up Leonard Floyd and Jordan Elliott, and that's pretty much it. Like, okay. That'll bring us to Seattle. I give them a C. Again, boring. Kept what they needed. Re-signing Leonard Williams was huge. They got Sam Howell, which is going to be nice for depth and the future, possibly. They did some decluttering, but I also don't think I would have let Diggs walk. Quandre Diggs, that one seemed a little bit silly. However, not like they had a bad offseason, just not the most eventful. Now we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A, they kept their band together. They came into this offseason with one of 2 options. Either A, you can rebuild and have a dog shit team next year, or you got option B, where you re-sign Baker, you re-sign Mike, you re-sign the team, and you move forward with what you had last year, which I think was the correct move. Also on top of that, they signed Jordan Whitehead for like, what, $3? And again, before Dallas fans get salty, they had no choice to do this. These guys were gonna walk. You guys didn't do shit. After the Bucks, we got the Titans. They get an A. Actually, I love their offseason. They get an A+. I think the Ridley move is great. That gives them a fantastic receiving duo. I think the addition of Mason Rudolph to back up or compete with Will Levis, that's going to be great. They got L'Jarius Sneed. They attacked their O-line. They added Tony Pollard and also a handful of defensive players. Like, you cannot look at this team and tell me that they're not trying. And ending, we got the Commanders. I will give them a B. They did a lot, but just nothing that substantial. I mean, they signed like 20 people. It's a damn scripture, but I think half of them are dinosaurs. And adding Marcus Mariota to your roster makes me want to vomit. However, I will give them credit. They attacked their D-line as much as they possibly could, which they needed to do. I just don't think it was anything catastrophic. And that is going to be it, ladies and gentlemen, for me grading every NFL team's offseason so far. Hope you guys liked this video. Let me know in the comments where you agree. Let me know where you disagree. And make sure to show this video any support because you guys know I appreciate it. Anyway, with everything I said, I'm going to get this edited so you guys can watch it on time. Have a fantastic rest of your week. And as always, I will see you in the next upload.